Hey there, Jamie Trull here, your favorite CPA and financial literacy coach. And today we're jumping into a bit of a hot button topic, okay? So bear with me here, but we're gonna be talking about credit cards. Specifically, whether you should get a credit card, whether you're looking at a business credit card or a personal credit card, and what some of the pros and cons of using credit cards are, okay? So we're gonna be jumping into this. Why am I doing this video this week? I did not plan to do this video this week. However, I logged into social media and I was heavily triggered by a post by Dave Ramsey that was talking about a quote from Mark Cuban about how if you want to be rich, you don't use credit cards, right? People who want to be rich do not use credit cards. And if you do use a credit card, you clearly don't want to be rich. And it triggered me because I hate shamey language and I hate blanket statements. As a finance person, they drive me crazy, right? Always and never are probably not really ever the answer. It's always somewhere in the middle. And I'm a really, really big proponent in the finance space of personal responsibility, right? And you making the best decision for you as a fully grown adult, okay? So you need to know yourself. That is the key to this. And so don't just listen to some guru because they said it, so it must be true for you. That person doesn't know you. They don't know your habits, and they're making a giant assumption about whether or not you can handle something without knowing anything about you, okay? So that's where I want to start. We're going to talk about pros and cons. We're going to talk about credit cards from a finance perspective and from a psychological perspective, because I think both of them are relevant, but I do want to talk about pros and cons here, okay? So let's talk about the very first pro, which just so happens is also the very first con, and that is ease of use. Credit cards are extremely easy to use. They are pretty much accepted everywhere, which is great, right? You don't have to worry about carrying around, envelopes of cash. My bank account, actually, my business bank account doesn't even have branches. It's fully online. So I don't even know where I would get this cash if I needed to. And it's very, very conducive to the digital world that we live in, right? Credit cards just happen to be the way of transacting digitally that is accepted everywhere. And so that's a great thing. You also don't have to have the money in your account to spend it, right? So it could give you some positives from a cash flow perspective, but that can also be a negative, right? Because you can spend money you don't necessarily have, then it can potentially add to overspending. So that is a point that I will give to Dave Ramsey, that yes, credit cards can being the key word, can make you more prone to overspending. That doesn't mean you necessarily will though, okay? So that's really the key to know, is that just having a credit card doesn't mean you're absolutely going to overspend. It's all about diligence and it's all about you, right? And how you use those things. So it is possible, despite the quote that Dave Ramsey has, it is possible to use credit cards responsibly. So what does that look like, using a credit card responsibly? Well, I would say it means setting a budget still and using your credit card just like you would a debit card, right? Just like you would a cash, where you would look and see, do I have enough money to cover this? Is this within my budget, before you make that purchase? Believe it or not, lots and lots of people do this, myself included, and are able to stay on budget and not overspend with a credit card, all right? So that's one way. The second thing that's important to do responsibly with your credit cards, right, and is a responsible way of using them, is to pay them off in full every single month. That ensures you won't have any interest at all that will be accruing on those balances, okay? And that means you're basically getting a free 30-day loan or more, right? And you have 0% interest. So that is what I consider to be leverage. It's really helpful, especially in the business world, just when you're talking about cash flow timing. That can be really, really helpful for business owners, right? Now, you don't want to put things on that you won't have the cash to pay later, but if you know that you will, then that may not be so bad from a timing perspective to have that additional amount of money that you get an interest-free loan on, basically, right? But you have to pay it off. If you do not pay it off, that's where we're talking about really going into debt, and you will have to pay large amounts of interest. It's not a good strategy for those who need cash, right? If you need cash, if you want to take on debt in your business, don't do it via credit cards. Go a different route and get an actual business loan. It's going to be much less in terms of interest and way better terms than a credit card will be. Okay, don't use a credit card for long-term things. So that's a really key piece of advice, to not use them irresponsibly, is to make all of those things a habit. And I do believe it's possible. I believe humans can do this. We are able to learn. We are able to have discipline. And so if you know that that's you, then don't feel like you need to shy away from it if you know that you can use it responsibly. Okay, so let's go back. Let's go back to the pros list now. Okay, let's talk about different pros. Even though our friend Dave, I like to show his quotes up here, says that there's no good reason at all to have a credit card, I am going to refute that a little bit and give you some good reasons to have a credit card, okay? So again, ease of use, accepted everywhere, that is great, but there are some even more important things, right? So we're talking about building credit. Building credit, I believe, is extremely important, right? If you want to own a house, if you want to be able to leverage your money maybe and get a car loan or something like that, right? If you want to be able to have business credit, right? You can build business credit with a business credit card, and then you will be able to get lower interest loans, let's say if you're looking to expand your business or something like that. So I'm not talking about plugging holes with it. You don't ever want to plug holes with credit cards and with debt. But what you do want to do potentially, right, depending on your risk averseness, if you feel really comfortable and you have a good business plan and a proven business plan and you want to expand, for example, but you need maybe some cash up front to buy the assets that are going to be part of that business that you know are going to provide a return, well, why not be able to get debt? So a credit score is going to be really important in that, and building business credit is going to be key, okay? So credit is something you probably do want to have. And if you responsibly use a credit card, that will build your credit faster than anything. And it's one of the only ways, maybe the only way, to build credit without having to pay any interest. If you are paying it off every single month, you never have to incur a dime of interest, and yet you are increasing your credit rating even so, okay? So most of the other ways to build credit are by having loans and paying interest, but this is one way that you wouldn't have to do that and you can still get an amazing credit score. I've been using credit cards for a long time. I pay them off every single month, and my credit score is over 800, okay? So I can get low interest rates on my homes, right? I can get approved for loans if I need them, and that is really important to me as a human being and gives me options. And I'm a really big fan of options. Okay, another good reason to have a credit card is also what people know about, right? A lot of times people get credit cards for the points. You can get additional money that you can use for other things, right? Now, if you're carrying a balance, that's probably going to counteract, right, any amount of points that you could earn. So if you're not sure if you're going to be able to pay it off every month, then you don't want to get a credit card just for the points because it's not going to really be worth it in the long run. But if you know you're going to, then that's extra money, right? Could be like 1% to 5% in some cases, depending on the type of card you get, either in points or even in cash back, right? So now you're talking about saving potentially up to 5% on your purchases, which then you can use for traveling. Or again, it can be cash back towards groceries and gas, or even help you save faster and save up your emergency fund or save for retirement, right? Those are all good things that I think we can all agree would be a positive thing for you to have. So I am a big fan of utilizing those credit card points to my advantage. I've gone on many, many trips over the years based entirely on credit card points. It's one of my favorite ways to use it, okay? So I think that there are some great options if you want to get a credit card for that reason, whether it's business or personal. And then my last key reason to get a credit card, right, potentially if you can use it responsibly, is you're going to get fraud protections that do not exist if you're using a debit card or cash or check, right? Those fraud preventions don't exist. So if your debit card number is stolen, it is going to be much, much harder, if not impossible, to get that money back, right? And if you don't notice it right away, you might have your whole bank account drained and it's gone. Versus if there's fraud on a credit card, usually there's quicker alertness, right? They'll tell you quicker, and you typically aren't going to have to pay for those fraudulent charges, right? Which is amazing. You also now have the ability to do chargebacks on credit cards. So if you bought something from a vendor in good faith and it was not, it was not delivered to you, or maybe you contracted with a service provider that didn't actually end up providing you the service. I've used this before for a lawyer. There's a whole long story behind this, but a lawyer that I paid to do some work for me that turns out, I found out a year and a half later, she never did any of the work. I had to go through the chargeback process, and I was able to get money back from her, even though her business was basically bankrupt. Let me just tell you, those protections are really, really important as consumers in this modern day. Those protections are automatic on personal credit cards, and while they're not automatic typically on business credit cards, most credit card companies, most big credit card companies will extend those same fraud prevention and protection techniques to your business credit card as well. Now, just to make sure that I am being fair, let's be fair here. Again, psychology plays a lot into this. You know yourself, and there are some cons to be aware of with credit cards as well, whether we're talking business or personal. The biggest one being interest. If you carry a balance, that interest amount can be 17% or more. They tend to be very, very high, much higher than traditional loans that you might otherwise take out. So you do not want that to be a form of debt that you are using much at all. You don't want to use it at all if you can avoid it, right? So you want to be paying that balance off all the time. And the interest is going to be charged not just on whatever's unpaid, okay? So even if you only have a couple $100s that you have unpaid, they're going to charge you interest on the average outstanding balance. So that means you could be paying more interest than you might otherwise expect. And that's something that I actually didn't even realize for a long time. So that interest can be significant. Pay that dang thing off, okay? A couple of other potential drawbacks. Some have annual fees, but again, remember that if you're utilizing it correctly and getting those points, oftentimes the point values, you want to do the calculation, make sure the point values are going to overcome the annual fees, or just pick one that doesn't have an annual fee. Another drawback is that initially when you apply for a credit card, typically you're going to have a hard pull on your credit to get that credit card, which means that it could temporarily at least reduce your credit score. Okay, so temporarily in the beginning, when you first get that credit card, you're not going to see the benefit yet of those on-time payments, but you will see the negative benefit of that hard pull on your credit. That's even true for business credit cards. Typically, they do pull your personal credit because most of the time when you're getting your first business credit card, you don't have any business credit. So they have to go off your personal credit score. So that's just something to be aware of. But again, using it correctly and on-time payments are going to significantly over time increase your credit score a lot more than that one-time hard pull will hurt it. So the only thing to really think about with that is that if you don't need to get another loan within the next 12 to 24 months after getting a new credit card, then it really shouldn't matter that you have had a temporary decline in your credit rate, right? But if you do plan to need a loan within that amount of time, you might want to wait to get a new credit card until after you've gotten that loan, so that you can just think about the timing of when that's going to affect your credit. But again, over the long term, paying off your credit card is going to significantly increase your credit. And then the last con to talk about is if you tend to be utilizing a large portion of your available credit, right, then that could actually decrease your score as well. However, again, if you're paying off your balance routinely, that should more than offset the negative you might get for utilizing a lot of your credit. So what do I mean by utilization? Typically, you want to stay under 30% utilization. So if your credit limit on your credit card is $10,000, let's say, then 30% you'd want to stay under utilizing $3,000 or so as your average outstanding balance. Okay, that would keep you under 30%. Now, it's not going to automatically just destroy your credit if you go above that, but if you stay above that for a long period of time, it could have a negative impact on your credit score. Now, I'll tell you one little hack to this is that I do like to regularly increase my credit limit. Not all the time, but I do put in requests. Sometimes that they offer this to me without having to do a hard pull on my credit. Sometimes it does require a hard pull on my credit. Again, a hard pull will have a negative impact on credit score in the short term, but again, could be positive in the long term. And so therefore, if you are increasing your credit limit steadily over time, and you have no plans on increasing your spending, which is how I do it, right? I increase my credit limit, but then I don't change my spending habits at all. That means my utilization is automatically lowering, even though I'm spending the same amount as I was before. So that could be a little hack for you if you're trying to work on your credit score. Focus on lower utilization and even maybe thinking about how to get your available credit balance up so that you can do that, okay? I gotta say, if you are a fully grown adult and you have decided that yes, I can handle it, I can have a credit card and use it responsibly and pay off my balances, right, and still adhere to my budget, then I want to tell you about my favorite credit cards. I have partnered with a company called Travel Freely, which recommends certain credit cards, especially the ones that give you lots and lots of points and sign-on bonuses and all the things that we love, right? And you're just going to go to jamietrull.com/credit cards to check out my recommended business and personal credit cards. There are a few, I will tell you, you definitely want to go check them out because there are a few of them that have some crazy, crazy sign-on bonuses going on right now, at least in November of 2022 when I'm recording this. And we keep those sign-on bonuses updated all the time. I do get referral bonuses for using my links, and I appreciate it because it helps to help me be able to come out here and give you more and more content and support you in the ways that I can. I recommend these, however, because they're actually, most of these are credit cards that I have used, or I have solicited reviews around what are the best ones that people really, really like. And so I feel really confident to recommend them to you. And I so appreciate when you use my links. So hopefully you found this video helpful. Again, check out my recommended credit cards. And if it makes sense for you, make sure to go through and use those links. Also check out the video that I did recently talking about how to make sure that you use your credit card points in the most tax advantageous way possible. So hopefully this was helpful, and I'll see you next time.